My scrubs clung to my body like a second skin, soaked in sweat and the weight of 18 hours that felt like 18 years. The hospital's fluorescent lights had burned into my retinas, and I could still hear the steady beep of monitors echoing in my ears. 3 cardiac arrests, 2 emergency surgeries, and 1 miracle baby later, I was finally driving home through the pre-dawn darkness. My name is Haley McCarthy, and I'm a trauma nurse at the city's busiest hospital. At 26, I've seen more life and death than most people see in a lifetime. Tonight had been particularly brutal. We lost Mr. Peterson, an elderly man who reminded me of my late father, and saved twin premature babies whose mother couldn't stop crying with relief. As I pulled into my driveway, all I wanted was to collapse into my bed and forget the world existed. The house I shared with my stepmother Vanessa looked different in the dim streetlight, but my exhausted brain couldn't process why. I'd been living here since Dad died 2 years ago, paying half the mortgage while Vanessa figured things out, which mostly involved dating men half her age and spending my money on designer handbags. I fumbled for my keys, my hands shaking from caffeine withdrawal and pure exhaustion. The key wouldn't turn. I tried again, thinking maybe the cold weather had warped the lock. Nothing. That's when I noticed the shiny new deadbolt gleaming mockingly at me in the porch light, and my blood turned to ice. What the hell? I whispered, trying the key again with more force. The metal scraped against the new lock, creating a sound that made my already frayed nerves snap like overstretched rubber bands. I pressed my ear against the door, hearing the faint sound of music from inside. Music that definitely wasn't Vanessa's usual classical preference. I walked around to the back of the house, my legs feeling like they were moving through quicksand. The exhaustion was making everything feel surreal, like I was watching someone else's nightmare unfold. The back door had the same new lock. Every window on the ground floor was locked tight. That's when I saw them, black garbage bags lined up like soldiers along the curb, waiting for tomorrow's pickup. My heart hammered against my ribs as I approached the first bag. The smell hit me immediately, my perfume mixed with the musty scent of old clothes. With trembling fingers, I tore open the bag. My nursing textbooks. The stethoscope Dad gave me when I graduated nursing school. Photo albums filled with pictures of me and Dad, vacations we'd taken, graduations, birthdays. My entire history crammed into garbage bags like it meant nothing. I ripped open another bag, finding my clothes, my jewelry, my laptop, everything that made this place home. Vanessa! I screamed, pounding on the front door with both fists. Open this damn door. My voice cracked with exhaustion and rage, echoing through the quiet neighborhood like a war cry. The door opened slowly and Vanessa appeared wearing a silk robe I'd never seen before, probably bought with money I'd given her for groceries. Her usually perfect blonde hair was tousled and her makeup was smeared. Behind her, I caught a glimpse of a man's shadow retreating up the stairs. My stepmother of 3 years looked at me with cold blue eyes that held no trace of the woman who used to make me birthday cakes. "Haley, honey," she said in that fake sweet voice she used when she wanted something. "I tried calling you at work, but they said you were in surgery. I left messages." "What messages?" "My phone died hours ago." "Vanessa, what is this? Why are my things in the trash? Why can't I get into my house?" Each word came out sharper than the last, my exhaustion transforming into pure fury. She had the audacity to look uncomfortable for exactly 2 seconds before her mask slipped back into place. "Well, the thing is, Blake and I are getting married next month and we need the space. You're 26 now, Haley. It's time you found your own place." Blake, the 30-year-old wannabe entrepreneur she'd been dating for 3 months. The same Blake who'd tried to hit on me at Dad's memorial service. My vision blurred with tears of exhaustion and betrayal. "This is my father's house. I've been paying half the mortgage for 2 years." My voice rose to a pitch that probably woke the neighbors, but I was beyond caring. "Actually," Vanessa's smile turned predatory, "your father left the house to me. You were just staying here. Out of kindness." "That's impossible," I whispered, but doubt crept into my voice like poison. Dad had always been terrible with paperwork, and after Mom died when I was 15, he'd relied on Vanessa for everything financial. He wouldn't have. Oh, but he did. Vanessa disappeared for a moment and returned with a folder. "Will and testament signed and notarized. Everything goes to his loving wife. That's me, in case you forgot." She held up the papers like a trophy, her diamond engagement ring catching the porch light. A ring I'd never seen before, probably worth more than I made in 6 months. My knees buckled slightly. 18 hours of surgery, codes, death, and miracles, and now this. I grabbed the porch railing to steady myself, my scrubs still damp with the sweat of saving lives while my stepmother had been planning to throw mine away. You can't just throw me out without notice. There are laws. Actually, there aren't. Not when you're just a guest who overstayed her welcome. Blake appeared behind her, shirtless and smug, his arms snaking around Vanessa's waist possessively. I looked into it. No lease agreement, no legal residency. Just family charity that's reached its expiration date. The way he said family made my skin crawl. This was the man who'd whispered inappropriate comments to me at Dad's funeral, who'd eaten meals I'd paid for while planning to kick me out. I could smell his expensive cologne mixing with Vanessa's perfume, creating a nauseating cloud of betrayal. You have until morning to get your belongings off the property, Vanessa added, gesturing toward the garbage bags like they were doing me a favor. Something cold and hard crystallized in my chest, cutting through the exhaustion like a scalpel through flesh. I'd spent 18 hours fighting to save lives, refusing to give up when machines flatlined and families wept. I wasn't about to roll over now. Fine, I said quietly, my voice steadier than I felt. But I need to get some things from inside first. Personal documents, my medical licenses, things that aren't replaceable. Vanessa and Blake exchanged glances. Make it quick, she said. 5 minutes. I walked through the door of what had been my home for 2 years, seeing it with new eyes. The furniture Dad and I had picked out together was already being rearranged. Pictures of our family had been replaced with photos of Vanessa and Blake at expensive restaurants. Meals funded by my mortgage payments, no doubt. In my old room, I moved quickly but deliberately. My nursing licenses were gone from the wall where I'd hung them proudly. My diploma was missing. But I wasn't looking for those things. I was looking for something much more important. The lockbox Dad kept in his closet, the one he'd shown me the combination to just in case something happens to me. My fingers found the familiar metal box behind his winter coats, right where he'd always kept it. I spun the combination, Mom's birthday, and the lock clicked open. Inside were Dad's important papers. Insurance policies, the deed to the house, his real will, and something that made my heart stop beating. A letter addressed to me, dated 6 months before he died, in his unmistakable handwriting. Time's up, Haley. Blake's voice boomed from downstairs, but I was frozen, staring at Dad's letter. My hands shook as I opened it, his familiar handwriting blurring through my exhausted tears. My dearest Haley, if you're reading this, then something has happened to me and Vanessa has probably told you some lies about inheritance. Don't believe her. I've seen how she looks at you and I know she resents having to share my attention and resources with my daughter. The will she has is fake. I caught her trying to forge documents months ago, but I pretended not to notice while I made arrangements with my real lawyer. My breath caught in my throat. I quickly scanned the rest of the letter, my medical training helping me process information rapidly even in crisis mode. Contact information for Dad's real lawyer, Mr. Douglas. Account numbers for bank accounts Vanessa didn't know about. And the location of his actual will. In a safety deposit box at a bank across town. The house is yours, baby girl, the letter continued. And so is everything else. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you about Vanessa's true nature while I was alive. I loved her, but I loved you more. Don't let her steal your future like she tried to steal mine. Footsteps pounded up the stairs. I quickly folded the letter and stuffed it into my scrubs pocket along with the other documents, then grabbed a few random items to make it look like I'd been packing personal belongings. When Blake appeared in the doorway, I was shoving socks into a duffel bag like a defeated woman gathering her last possessions. Found what you needed? His voice dripped with fake concern that made my skin crawl. Yeah, I whispered, shouldering the duffel bag. I think I have everything important. The weight of Dad's letter in my pocket felt like armor, but I kept my face blank, defeated. Let them think they'd won. Let them think I was just another victim of their cruel scheme. As I walked downstairs, Vanessa was waiting with a satisfied smile that didn't reach her eyes. I know this is hard, sweetie, but you'll thank me someday. This will force you to become independent, to build your own life instead of hiding behind your father's memory. The audacity of her words after 18 hours of saving lives, after 2 years of paying for her lifestyle, after she'd literally thrown my belongings in the garbage like trash. It was breathtaking. But I nodded meekly, playing the part of the broken stepdaughter. "Where will you go?" she asked, and for a split second I almost believed she cared. "I'll figure something out," I mumbled. "Maybe sleep in my car tonight, find a motel tomorrow." I saw Blake smirk, and something dark and satisfying settled in my chest. Let him feel superior. Let them both think they'd destroyed me. I gathered as many garbage bags as I could fit in my Honda Civic, loading them with the mechanical efficiency I'd learned from years of emergency medicine. Everything had to be prioritized, organized, salvaged. Some bags contained clothes I'd need for work tomorrow. Others held irreplaceable mementos of Dad that I'd die before letting end up in a landfill. As I drove away, I caught a glimpse of them in the rearview mirror, standing in the doorway like victors surveying their conquered territory. The house Dad had bought for his family, where we'd celebrated my nursing school graduation, where I'd held his hand during his final days. They had no idea what was coming. I sat in my car outside a 24-hour diner, the engine running and heat blasting while I used their Wi-Fi to research. My exhaustion was bone deep, but adrenaline and righteous fury kept me focused with laser precision. I'd called in sick to work, something I'd never done in 3 years, because this couldn't wait. First, I called Mr. Douglas's emergency line. Dad's real lawyer was a night owl who answered on the second ring, his voice sharp despite the early hour. "Mr. Douglas, this is Haley McCarthy, James McCarthy, daughter. I need to know about my father's will, the real one." "Haley, I've been expecting your call for 2 years. Your stepmother told me you didn't want to contest the probate, that you were too grief-stricken to deal with legal matters. I thought it was strange, given what your father told me about you, but..." She lied. I cut him off, my voice steady despite the fury building in my chest. "She forged documents and threw me out tonight. I have Dad's letter." The silence stretched for several seconds. "Can you meet me at my office in an hour? And Haley, bring that letter. What your stepmother has done isn't just unethical, it's criminal fraud." Next, I called my best friend Skylar, a paralegal who'd helped me understand medical malpractice law when I was a new nurse. She answered on the fourth ring, groggy but immediately alert when she heard my voice. "Haley, girl, it's 5 in the morning. Are you okay? I need your help. Can you meet me downtown? It's about my stepmother and it's bad." "How bad?" "Felony fraud bad." Mr. Douglas's office smelled like leather and old books, a comforting contrast to the antiseptic hospital smell that had become my second skin. At 65, he was sharp as a scalpel, his gray hair perfectly styled despite the ungodly hour. Skylar sat beside me, taking notes with the precision of someone who understood that every detail mattered in legal battles. "Your father came to me 6 months before his death," Mr. Douglas began, spreading documents across his massive oak desk. "He was concerned about your stepmother's behavior. He'd discovered forged signatures on some financial documents, mysterious withdrawals from accounts, and what appeared to be an attempt to create a fraudulent will." He handed me a thick folder. "This is your father's real last will and testament, witnessed and notarized properly. The house, his life insurance, his retirement accounts, his investment portfolio. Everything goes to you, with a small provision for Vanessa to remain in the house for 6 months to find alternative arrangements." My hands shook as I read the document. Dad hadn't just left me the house, he'd left me financially secure. The life insurance alone was worth more than I'd make in 5 years of nursing. Vanessa had stolen not just my home but my entire inheritance. "But she has a will too," I said, showing him the copy Vanessa had flaunted. Mr. Douglas examined it with a magnifying glass, his expression growing darker. "Forgery. And not even a good one. The signatures are close, but your father had a distinctive way of dotting his I's that this forger missed. Plus, this will is dated after his death." Skylar leaned forward. "What's our next move?" "Police report for fraud and theft. Immediate injunction to prevent her from selling or damaging the property. And..." Mr. Douglas's smile was predatory. "Since she's been collecting life insurance benefits and Social Security survivor benefits based on this fraudulent will, we're looking at federal charges too." By noon, I was standing outside the police station with Detective Evans, a sharp-eyed woman who specialized in white-collar crime. She'd reviewed all our evidence with the thoroughness I appreciated in medical diagnoses. Methodical, comprehensive, missing nothing. "This is substantial fraud," she said, her voice carrying the weight of someone who'd seen every kind of human betrayal. We're talking about identity theft, document forgery, insurance fraud, and theft of an estate worth over $500,000. Your stepmother and her boyfriend are looking at serious federal time. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Heard you're causing trouble. Drop this or you'll regret it. I showed the message to Detective Evans, who smiled grimly. Threatening a witness. Blake just made this case even easier. She handed me her card. We'll execute search warrants this afternoon. In the meantime, stay somewhere safe. These people have shown they're willing to destroy your life for money. Don't underestimate what else they might do. I drove to Skylar's apartment, finally allowing myself to feel the full weight of the last 24 hours. 18 hours saving lives, followed by 8 hours fighting to save my own future. My body ached with exhaustion, but my mind was crystal clear for the first time in months. You know what the crazy part is? I told Skylar as she made coffee with hands that weren't quite steady. I actually feel sorry for Dad. He loved her, and she was planning to rob his daughter blind from the day they got married. Some people, Skylar said quietly, see kindness as weakness. Your dad's mistake was thinking everyone had a heart like his. At 3 p.m. my phone rang. Detective Evans. We're at your house now. You might want to come see this. The scene outside my father's house looked like something from a crime drama. Police cars lined the street, their red and blue lights painting the neighborhood in chaos. Neighbors stood on porches and peered through windows, finally getting the show Vanessa and Blake had been building toward for months. Detective Evans met me at the curb, her expression grim with satisfaction. We found the insurance papers, forged bank documents, and about $50,000 in cash hidden in their bedroom. Your stepmother broke down and confessed when she saw the evidence, but Blake is still claiming innocence. Through the front window, I could see Vanessa in handcuffs, her perfect blonde hair disheveled, her silk robe replaced with an orange jumpsuit that made her look smaller, more pathetic than I'd ever seen her. She was crying. Not the elegant tears she used to manipulate Dad, but ugly, desperate sobs of someone whose world was collapsing. The best part, Detective Evans continued, is that they'd already planned to sell the house next week. They had a buyer lined up, paperwork ready. They weren't just stealing your inheritance, they were trying to liquidate it and disappear. Blake appeared in handcuffs, his earlier smugness replaced by something between rage and terror. When he saw me standing on the sidewalk, his face contorted with hatred. This is all your fault, he screamed as officers loaded him into the patrol car. You couldn't just move on. You had to destroy everything. The irony wasn't lost on me. The man who'd spent months planning to steal my life was accusing me of destruction. I felt a strange kind of peace watching him rage helplessly, realizing that his words couldn't hurt me anymore. I'd found my strength in Dad's letter, in the truth, in my own refusal to be a victim. Haley. Vanessa's voice was barely a whisper as they led her past me. I should have kept walking. I should have let her disappear into the police car without another word. But something in her broken voice made me stop, made me turn to face the woman who'd tried to steal my future. I'm sorry, she whispered, her perfect makeup streaked with tears and regret. I never meant for it to go this far. Started small, just a few bills, a little extra spending money. But Blake, he convinced me that you were getting everything you didn't deserve, that I was your father's widow and I should have been provided for. You were provided for, I said quietly, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. Dad left you enough to live comfortably for the rest of your life. It wasn't enough that you had his love, his care, his devotion. You needed everything, including the future he tried to secure for his daughter. She flinched like I'd slapped her. I know you won't believe this, but I did love him. I loved your father. No, I said, feeling 18 hours of exhaustion and 24 hours of betrayal crystallize into perfect clarity. You loved what he could give you. If you'd loved him, you never could have stolen from his daughter. You never could have thrown his memory in the garbage along with my belongings. Detective Evans appeared at my shoulder. We need to go, Mrs. McCarthy. As they led her away, Vanessa looked back one more time. I hope someday you can forgive me. I watched the police car disappear around the corner, carrying away the woman who'd shared my father's bed while planning to destroy his child. Forgiveness felt like a luxury I couldn't afford yet, maybe wouldn't ever afford. Some betrayals cut too deep, revealed too much about someone's character to ever fully heal. But for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. 3 weeks later, I stood in the doorway of my father's house. My house now, watching professional cleaners remove the last traces of Vanessa and Blake's occupation. They'd done more damage than I'd initially realized. Expensive furniture purchased with my inheritance money, alterations to rooms that had held precious memories, even my father's study converted into Blake's home office, where he'd apparently been running some kind of cryptocurrency scam. The insurance companies had been surprisingly helpful once they learned about the fraud. Not only was I getting back everything that had been stolen, but Vanessa and Blake were looking at serious federal charges. Their lawyer had approached Mr. Douglas about a plea deal, but I wasn't interested in making their lives easier. My phone buzzed with a text from Skylar. "How's the first day back home?" "Strange," I typed back. Like waking up from a nightmare, but the nightmare damaged real things. I walked through rooms that were slowly becoming mine again, each space holding memories of my father that Vanessa had tried to erase. In his study, I found photo albums she'd hidden away. Pictures of me and Dad at my high school graduation, my nursing school pinning ceremony, holidays and birthdays, and ordinary Tuesday afternoons that had meant everything to him. The doorbell rang and I opened it to find Detective Evans holding a box. "Final evidence return," she said with a smile. "Your father's personal items that were hidden in their bedroom. Thought you'd want these back." Inside the box were Dad's watch, the one he'd worn every day for 30 years. His reading glasses. A small notebook where he'd written reminders and observations, including several entries about watching Vanessa more carefully and need to protect Haley's future. At the bottom of the box was an envelope with my name on it in Dad's handwriting. Another letter, one the police had found hidden behind a picture frame in what used to be my room. "My dearest Haley," it began, "if you're reading this, then you've discovered the truth about Vanessa and fought back. I'm proud of you. I always knew you had the strength to stand up for yourself when it really mattered. You save lives every day at that hospital, but today you saved your own life, your own future. That's my girl." I sat on the front porch where Dad and I used to drink coffee on Sunday mornings, reading his final words as the sun set behind the house he'd bought to give his daughter a future. The exhaustion from that 18-hour shift felt like a lifetime ago, replaced by something stronger, more permanent. I was home. I was free. I was exactly where I belonged. And tomorrow, I'd go back to the hospital and continue saving lives, secure in the knowledge that I'd also learned how to save myself. 5 years from now, do you think I will be thanking myself for this decision or wondering, what if? I'm genuinely curious about your prediction. Let me know in the comments. And if these stories about people choosing their sanity over toxic relationships speak to your soul, subscribe and turn on those notifications. You won't want to miss the next one.